After drafting Omarion Hampton in round 1, the Chargers now have a two-headed monster in their backfield, and now the question becomes, how soon could the rookie take over RB1 duty?
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together. This is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to all of the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, Daniel, the Chargers selected a running back in the first round, which means they now have 2 first-round running backs in their backfield. And so that begs the question, who is ultimately going to be that RB1? It's going to be a very heated competition throughout. And, of course, the Chargers double-dipped at wide receiver. What does that mean for Quentin Johnston and his prospects going forward? And will the Chargers add somebody on the offensive line, hopefully at guard?
That's what we're hoping for. We hope to see there's some movement there, and with Joe Ortiz, we trust that there could be. But this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. David, it is Buy or Sell Tuesday, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And we know post-draft there are going to be a lot of them floating around. I mean, already we're getting, Chargers to the Super Bowl, Chargers perfect draft. All of the things that you expect to come as far as overreactions go. But I do want to start with this one, inspired by the listeners, which is this. Buy or sell, Omarion Hampton will replace Najee Harris as RB1 at some point this season. And I'm buying it. And I think the reason I'm buying it is because I used RB1 specifically because I don't think necessarily he will be the starter. I think they want Najee Harris to be the starter. At the same time, they didn't know they were going to get Omarion Hampton when they signed Najee Harris to what is a 1-year deal. So they don't really owe him anything from that regard. I know that there was probably promises made of him being kind of that bell cow back. At the same time, I do feel like once you get further and further into the season, because I do believe they want to start Najee Harris from day one, and he will be the opening day starter, even though you used a first-round pick on a running back. If he is way more effective, Hampton that is, can you keep, in a season you're trying to win this year, keep giving the ball more to someone that's less effective? Now, we've seen it. Jahmyr Gibbs had less carries than David Montgomery as a rookie. In a perfect world, I think they would like Najee Harris to kind of carry the weight in year 1 for Omarion Hampton, maybe keep a little bit of tread off those tires. At the same time, if one guy is just obviously doing a lot more with those touches, it's hard for me not to think that Omarion Hampton will start eating into those and potentially start out-touching him towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I am also going to buy it as well. I just feel like from a special factor, from a home run hitting ability factor, I just feel like, Omarion Hampton has that skill set already. He has that kind of, danger in his game where he can break through tackles, he can get, and he can take it the distance. And Najee definitely has a place in this offense. He's still going to get those tough yards. He's going to get the volume carries. He's going to wear down defenses. Both these guys can do that, but I just feel like from a guy that can affect the game a little bit more, I think Omarion Hampton is that guy for me. So that's the reason why I am buying it.
Well, and I think the hard thing is especially because I compared, just to the Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs situation, is that Najee and Omarion have similar skill sets.
Yeah.
But Omarion is just a little bit more explosive. So the thing is like, okay, well, you could say Najee Harris is going to beat you down. Omarion Hampton brings some of those same things to the table. So you are going to have kind of a twin battering ram in your backfield. And, short yarded situation, you can use both the guys.
Yeah, no rest.
Receivers,
right?
You can
no
use
rest.
both those guys. Yeah, I mean, I think the hard thing is both those guys could be 3-down backs and can bring both those things to the table. But I do think that it will start with Najee being that guy, and we'll see how quickly that Omarion progresses. But I think it leads to this here from Alex Boltup, who says, buy or sell, Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton will split snaps right down the middle to start the season. And that I would sell. I do think it'll be slightly in the favor of Najee Harris, even though, David, I think most people, if you're drafting a running back in the first round, you're kind of expecting him to hit the ground running and be that guy from day one. But I do think in this specific situation, it will be Najee out touching him and out snapping him early on.
I agree completely. I mean, this one was kind of a no-brainer for me. Najee Harris is going to be that guy from the beginning until he kind of showcases that he's either not going to be the most effective person or, they just have Omarion Hampton, getting in there. He's got the hot hand and then, he takes that and he runs with it. But I feel like from the beginning, they're going to go with the veteran. They're going to go with the guy who has the proven production in the NFL. And obviously they're excited about Omarion Hampton. They were, not expecting to get him like you mentioned, but the fact that he's there, the fact that they were able to get him, add him to this offense, I think they're very, very excited about that. But I do also feel like, hey, what do they say over and over and over again? Competitors welcome. The cream's going to rise to the top. I think from that perspective, it's going to have to be something that's earned, and that's not necessarily earned all the way in practice. You got to go do it in the game where it really matters, and the stats are really going to be on the back of your football cards.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because when you look back at last year, we were having these same conversations about Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and it was really kind of the thought going into it that J.K. Dobbins would probably be kind of in a backseat role to Gus Edwards, who was brought in to be the bell cow back, and said that at his opening press conference right before J.K. Dobbins was signed. But J.K. Dobbins was the more effective back, and as the season went on, and obviously Gus Edwards got hurt, it changed things. And when Gus Edwards came back, he didn't go back to that bell cow lead running back role. It was J.K. Dobbins, and he earned that. And that's what it's going to have to take. And when you're talking about earning something, you also have to talk about earning the trust of your team. And that starts for almost every team in pass protection. One of the, my favorite parts about Omarion Hampton is he's a great pass protector. He has the physicality and all of those things, but it's different at the NFL level. Kamani Vidal was a great pass protector in college, and he's smaller and has different kind of challenges in front of him. But
of course,
it's about reading and making the right reads and blocking the right guy, not just about the willingness to meet a linebacker in the hole and stun him, right? Like that's just not all it is. He has to earn that in training camp. And I think that the hard thing is both these guys are so damn durable that it's not easy to say, like with J.K. Dobbins last year, oh, well, J.K. might get hurt, so maybe Gus Edwards is going to have more carries. I do think there's a chance Najee Harris has more carries. I do think Omarion Hampton starts to eat into that. And I mean, when you take a running back in the first round, you want that guy to be getting those touches. There's a reason that you take him there. And like I said, you didn't know we were going to get him when you took Najee Harris in free agency. But let's get to this from Athir, because it's not an overreaction buy or sell Tuesday without an overreaction from Athir. Let's hear what he has.
Daniel, I love you. This is Athir. Buy or sell, Omarion Hampton will be the best running back in the AFC by week 6 and will take over as the number 1 back for the Bolts. I'm buying it. What do you got to say, baby? Thank you.
Athir, you're wild, bro. I mean, the best in the AFC. At first, I thought he said AFC West. And so I was like, maybe it's not that crazy, but the Raiders just drafted, Ashton Jeanty. Week 6, I don't know if it'll happen that quickly as far as him starting. I think it might take a little bit more than that, but like starting is kind of arbitrary anyways. It's about who's getting more touches, who's getting more snaps. Let's make it AFC West specifically, David, because we know they're 2 running backs linked together. Even the Broncos, you could throw RJ Harvey into that mix. Buy or sell that Omarion Hampton could be the best running back in the AFC West in 2024 or 2025.
This one's a tough one for me, and the reason why is because Ashton Jeanty's coming in to be the bell cow. He's going to be the number 1 guy off the rip. He's going to get
real competition.
He's going to get all the carries. There's nobody else that's going to be cutting into his touches. So for that reason, I have to sell it. I mean, I love Omarion Hampton, but they're going to be fighting for snaps. They're going to be splitting snaps. There is no such competition there with Ashton Jeanty.
Well, and I'll say something, that'll probably upset some Chargers fans. I would trade Omarion Hampton for Ashton Jeanty today. I mean, we're talking about a generational running back prospect.
They got
it's
picked
not a
top
hot
6
take.
and top 20.
Yeah, I mean, of course we all hoped Ashton Jeanty would fall there. I mean, Omarion Hampton could have a better situation, but he is going to be splitting carries with Najee Harris. RJ Harvey doesn't have real competition in that backfield for Denver. If he even gets into the conversation, I do think by the end of this season, we will think of Omarion Hampton as RB2 in the AFC West. A drop off from Isaiah Pacheco kind of leaves him out of this race. He still has to be good. I believe that Omarion Hampton will be good. I wish the Raiders didn't draft Ashton Jeanty, because I can't look at him and say now, just because the Chargers didn't get him,
so mad.
Hey, that guy's not very good, right? And just not going to be that guy. But Omarion Hampton, I'm very, very excited about, and I do think he will end up having a really, really good career, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see which one of those guys are better, because they will be linked for all of eternity. But we still have more to get into, including what the new wide receiver additions mean for the role of Quentin Johnston, who had a big leap in year 2. We're getting into all that and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on certain things. Eating out, food delivery. Now I budget a lot smarter. And now that I'm a few months into Monarch Money, it's so great kind of peeling back the layers of the onion and seeing all that it brings to table. But I do love one part of it specifically, and that is just the easy collaboration. I use it with my wife. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals for yourself, which I absolutely love to do, and I've hit better marks every month since I've had Monarch Money, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. All right, David, we have more buy or sells to get into, and we had so many great ones from the everydayers out there. Thank you to everyone who contributed today and who's ever contributed, but we won't be able to get to all of them. We're going to get to as many as we can today and save some of the ones today for future buy or sell shows because we had so many. But this one here is from Instagram from Grayson I Am Meek, who says, buy or sell, drafting Keandre Lambert-Smith is a possible sign to the end of Quentin Johnston's time as a Charger. So I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say Quentin Johnston's not getting cut this year. So any kind of thought to that, we had a few kind of buy or sells leaning towards that. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, it just really, to me, is much more about what the role is going to be. So the buy or sell for me is this, David. The Chargers drafting both the wide receivers they did maybe signals that Quentin Johnston's time as a big part of this offense might be coming to an end somewhat soon, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, from that perspective, I think that you look at it and you say, hey, last year they didn't really bring in any kind of legitimate competition, right? They drafted a couple of guys late, late in the draft that were going to kind of play similar type of positions possibly to Quentin Johnston. Ladd McConkey was never really direct competition because we all knew he was going to do his work out of the slot. Now, that's a completely different conversation now. When you have the two guys that you brought in with KLS and with Trey Harris. That's what I'm going to call him. I'm going to abbreviate it. He's got a very, very long name. So
it is wordy.
Yeah, it is. So now there's guys in the building that are going to challenge for your snaps, that are going to bring that competition to you. Now it's not, hey, I'm safe, I'm secure, I'm good, I don't have anything to worry about. No. You definitely have real competition. You have guys that are coming in to take your snaps. So Quentin Johnston, we all know what the deal is, right? He scored 8 touchdowns last year, but he still had issues separating, still had issues with drops. Those things have to continue to get better in order for him to continue to stay a part of this offense. You have to have that trust. And that's something that these new guys are going to have to earn from Justin Herbert as well. But yes, the fire is starting to crank up underneath the feet of Quentin Johnston.
To me, what I would buy here is just the fact that the Chargers aren't putting all of their eggs in the Quentin Johnston basket. Like, it doesn't mean that he's not going to play this year, or that those other guys are going to supersede him and get more snaps than him and have more targets than him. It doesn't mean that. And you have to see how their transition to the NFL happens, because Quentin Johnston was supposed to take all sorts of targets from everyone, when he came in as a rookie, and that's taken a little bit more time. You just don't know what the curve is going to be for these dudes. But I do think that there's a good part of this, which is the fact that Quentin Johnston might not play as many snaps, but I think the good part of that is that he won't be playing as many snaps doing things he's just not good at, right? And I think that the additions of the other receivers, not just the guys they drafted, but also Mike Williams, lets them use guys to get deep shots down the sideline.
Amen.
Whose game that actually is, right? You have a ball winner in Mike Williams. You have a ball winner now in Trey Harris. You have a dude who can actually stretch the field vertically and win deep balls in Keandre Lambert-Smith. Now you can use Quentin Johnston more in the role that he should be used on, which is, kind of a Z receiver that can be a flanker that you can get in motion, you can use in drags, you can put into obvious yak situations and not have to use him, because last year they couldn't beat man coverage. The Chargers were terrible at it outside of Ladd McConkey, but they didn't have a better option to go to than Quentin Johnston. They probably do in those situations now, and they have guys that can beat man coverage, which only makes the team better, but hopefully we'll let the Chargers use Quentin Johnston more in a role that his skill set going into year 3 is more suited for.
And he's effective at.
He is, and I hope that he becomes, more complete and all of those things, but at the same time, at a certain point, you are what you are. Quentin Johnston might not ever be that guy you want on the sideline, catching back shoulders and catching deep balls on one-on-one situations where Justin Herbert's under pressure and just has to throw it up.
Yeah.
That might not ever be a strength, and that's fine. He can still be useful in an offense, and I think hopefully this year they'll lean even more into just what his strengths are, but have kind of complementary pieces that can cover up some of his weaknesses. But let's get to this one here from Greg, who says, buy or sell, Darius Davis could be a cut casualty this year due to his lack of two-way ability on special teams. I think that means just he is a returner, but he's not going to be on coverage units. David, are you buying or selling this?
I'm selling it. This one's a really quick and easy sell for me, especially because Darius Davis found himself contributing to the offense towards the end of the season. And also, I would still find him to be one of the more effective returners in the game. And I feel like he can still hit that crease and take it the distance on any given return. And that's something that's very rare. I mean, you don't get a lot of guys. There are not a lot of guys in the NFL that can affect the game from the special teams department like Darius Davis can. He has legitimate returns for touchdowns on his resume. Not only did he do it in college, he has done it in the NFL. I think his spot is solidified. I don't think there's any way that he is getting removed from this football team.
I mean, this was talk that popped up last year, right? And you brought up the competition that QJ had last year, and basically it's Josh Palmer, right, and DJ Chark. Yeah. But for Darius Davis, this was a conversation last year, and you know that Ryan Ficken is going to have something to do with this conversation as the special teams coordinator. He still brings the all-pro punt return ability. I don't know if we've really ever seen it, as a really super great kick returner. It hasn't really been his game, so it is kind of more one-dimensional maybe than you're making it. But I do think that the big thing for me is, like, the only other real guy you have that can do it, or has shown that he can do it, is probably Ladd McConkey, and I don't want him out there returning punts. And I just think that the most likely scenario, looking at it right now, as far as who makes the roster, would be Mike Williams, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and you just have the two new guys in Trey Harris and KLS, as you called him, and then Darius Davis as that sixth guy. What I would say, probably mostly eliminates his role offensively, at least if I had to guess right now. But I would say that the main guys that are now in jeopardy as far as roster spots are Brendan Rice and Jalen Reagor, as I'm looking at it today. But let's get to one more here, David, an interesting one from Ernie. Buy or sell, the Chargers shut the door on Keenan Allen returning after double dipping on wide receiver in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for me, like I've said it for a while, I think the door's been closed for a very long time. And I don't even know if it's necessarily just been on the Chargers side of things. I mean,
sure,
who knows how Keenan Allen feels about it? I mean, yeah, we've known, hey, he said, I'll play in LA or play in Chicago or I won't play at all, right? Like we've heard him say that, but we also know what happened. He got traded away, after one of the best seasons of his career. So I just, from what they did there, from what they did in the draft, I think that was just the final nail. If there was any other of them that were protruding out, that one got hammered in, and that was it. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't see any way, barring a significant injury, that Keenan Allen makes his way back to the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm buying this one as well. I mean, it was probably always more of a long shot than maybe the fans thought, and even us included. At a certain point, it's like, hey, maybe there is some steam there. There's some Instagram reposting and some Mike Williams brotherly love that maybe clouded things, for a second. Sure. But I do think that it isn't clear that he wanted to come back to the Chargers specifically. He might have been targeting the Rams before they ended up getting Devontae Adams, right? But I think that the rookies could take some time So, having him as a vet in a vacuum, I don't think is a terrible thing, but I just don't really see it. He should go somewhere that he can play primarily in the slot, which you wouldn't be able to do, truthfully, with the Chargers, with Ladd McConkey kind of dominating that. And I think it becomes, who is he kicking off this roster, right? And I know there's probably fans out there saying, QJ, it doesn't make sense to do that. And even though I love Keenan Allen, he's a Charger forever, to me,
Yeah.
it didn't make a lot of sense beforehand, given how things ended and given the situation with Ladd. It makes much less sense after taking 2 new wide receivers, even if they are rookies and might not be able to make huge impacts this year. And we'll talk more about that. But we still have more to get into, including if the Chargers, after really only spending a 6th-round pick on offensive line, might be in the market to add more competition to the left guard spot. We're going to get into all that and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action, because right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. I have my eyes right now on the Lakers and Timberwolves game on Wednesday night, with the Lakers facing a must-win in Game 5. Right now, the Lakers are currently 5.5-point favorites and minus 235 to win outright. But with FanDuel, you always have the player props, like Luka to score 30-plus at minus 180. But if you wanted to go a little bit bigger in a must-win game, you go with LeBron to score 30-plus at plus 200, 2-to-1 money there. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. David, we still have more buy or sells to get into here, and thank you to all the everydayers again for making us your first listen and contributing to today's show. We appreciate all of you guys out there, and very excited to continue everything that we have going on now that we have the draft done, and now we know really what this team is. And thanks always for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. The NFL draft is over, but roster moves and news never stop, and hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. But, Dave, let's get into this next buy or sell here from Action Dan, who says, buy or sell with the Chargers drafting offensive line late. They will sign another veteran free agent. I'd take a flyer on Will Hernandez out of Arizona Cardinals. He was a guard at UTEP. There are a lot of options out there potentially, Dylan. Maybe not a lot, but there are options out there if the Chargers want to attack it. Now that they know what they got in the draft, are you buying or selling that?
As much as I want to buy this, I actually don't believe that it's going to happen. I'm going to sell it. And the reason why is because they've repeatedly touted who they have, the people that they have to play the left guard position. I feel like they actually feel like that they're good there. They have competition for that spot, and they have competition for that center spot, which, I mean, due to the players that they have, they're kind of, combined. They're kind of, connected in a way, because a lot of those guys, I mean, whether, Zion Johnson actually does, earn that starting center job or not, he's either probably going to play there or he's going to play at left guard. So I just feel like, I don't believe. And also, as you said on previous shows, even the last show last night, that the Chargers showed us exactly how they feel about the offensive line spot, because they took somebody in the 6th round. They didn't take anybody any sooner than that. So given that, based on that information and just based on how they've moved, I'm going to sell it.
It's a tough one for me. Because you're right. I mean, they showed us, they could have spent higher resources on it, but you don't know how the draft was going to fall, right? We don't know if they got sniped a couple times and there was guys they really wanted, and it just didn't happen to fall that way. You can't tell. I'm going to buy it. And it's tough because there's so many guys in that room right now. If you're talking about the 3 interior line spots, you're talking about not just Mekhi Becton, but also Bradley Bozeman and Andre James and Trey Pipkins and, Zion Johnson, obviously.
Yep.
That's a lot of guys. And plus, you have now your rookie thrown into that mix as well. And one of those guys probably gets cut to bring in another guy. But I am not going to doubt the greatness of Joe Hortiz and his ability to continue to churn this roster. My biggest fear is when they do it, right? I'm going to buy that it happens. I think there will be someone else added to this room. My fear is Are you going to do it like after training camp and after the preseason when you think you know for sure? Because it's like, for me, I feel like I know right now, and there would be an urgency for me to try to replace it.
Yeah.
It does feel like they're willing to go into training camp potentially and let these guys battle it out. And it doesn't matter if you have great competition between 3 bad players. And I'm not even saying that. I'm not trying to, take any of those guys out. But you don't know. Trusting this offensive line coaching staff with what happened last year in a group that felt like it underperformed, to think there's going to be a significant jump from the guys that you already had playing different positions they have less experience at.
It's hard to believe. Yeah.
It's hard for me to just totally jump on board that ship, and I won't. But I do think that there is still a chance that there's somebody added to that room. What I'd like to see, though, is earlier on, so that they have a chance during training camp to show what they can do, not potentially get added after training camp or right before the season, where it's like they're just going to be so stuck behind the 8 ball. When, to me, it's very obvious that a couple of those guys are not the answer, and if they are your number one answer right now, you need to make a move. But let's get into more from that, David. This with Mike W. here saying, buy or sell. We go into the preseason with only one battle on the offensive line at guard. We see Slater and Alt at tackle, Becton at guard, and James at center. The whole Zion at center is either a smokescreen or only as a depth piece. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'm going to sell it, unfortunately. And the reason why is because, this is talk about Zion at center from the very end of the season all the way through the draft process and after the draft process. I think they are absolutely going to give him every opportunity to win that starting center spot. It is echoed in everything that they've said. So as much as right now, as Daniel has said, I think Andre James is the best center on this football team. I feel like if he is given the opportunity to show that, if he's able to go, reach his 2023 form, then he's absolutely the best center on this football team, and he should be starting there. I hope in training camp he is given the opportunity to show that, not to try and play a position he's never played before at guard, but to play the position that is his natural position that he has excelled at in the NFL. That's what I hope to see in training camp.
And I still think they will give Andre James a chance at center, but it just feels like, for where I'm sitting right now, that Zion Johnson is the favorite unless it's disaster. And as far as smokescreen goes, and the reason that I sell this is just because, there's no point in a smokescreen now. Who are you smoking out? Are you smokescreening the fans and just trying to, make them feel better? Because it's not making anybody feel better. And I think what you just hope is that, from the scars of years past, that you're not talking about a Kenneth Murray situation where they're just going to try to force this guy onto the field any way they possibly can, even if he's not the best player there. And we'll see if Andre James can return to that 2023 form, but it's not a given, right? It's not 100% sure. I hope that Zion Johnson is the long lost center they never knew that they had on the roster. 100%. Do I buy that? It's really, really hard to say that at this point, because I've literally never seen it, and it's hard to project, especially for someone that struggled with awareness and kind of identifying things to think that he's going to be the anchor in the middle of that defense right now. So I do think that there's a shot for Andre James at center. I do think there's still a non-zero chance that the opening day lineup is Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson back at left guard, Andre James at center, right guard Mekhi Becton, and right tackle Joe Alt.
That's what I want to see.
There's still a chance of it. And that's to me what the best option is. Maybe Branson Taylor gets into this conversation, and maybe he, actually competes for the starting left guard spot. Feels more developmental, but maybe he does. But I think right now, I think they're fully in on this Zion Johnson center experience. But let's go to Chargers Hawk, who says, buy or sell. The Chargers will announce an extension for Rashawn Slater before the start of minicamp. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to sell it. And it just goes into the pattern and how the Chargers kind of do their contract extensions. They really kind of wait until almost the very, very last minute before the season starts. This has happened with multiple different players, whether it's Joey Bosa, whether it's Derwin James. There's been multiple examples of how they like to do this. I'm less worried that it's going to get done. I just am like all of you. I want it to be done now because it just seems like the easiest contract in the world to get done. Just make him the highest paid left tackle in the league and call it a day, because he earns that. He's earned that. He deserves that. It's the easiest decision in the world to make. But obviously that's me not spending the multi-$100 million it's probably going to take, or the multi-millions of dollars it's going to take to pay him the contract that he's inevitably going to get.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be 7-figure or what? No, I mean, no, it's probably going to
It
be
might
nine
be.
figures. It's
Yeah.
going to be 9 figures. It's going to be over $100 million
Yeah.
when it's all said and done. Buy or sell, Rashawn Slater's going to hold out if he doesn't have a deal in training camp.
I'm going to buy that one. Yeah.
It seems like the thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually what players do. Some people, especially players of his caliber, sometimes do.
Everyone did a hold in.
He did a hold in, and we saw boast with the hold out, and that's why I do believe it will be either on the eve of training camp or maybe shortly into training camp.
Yeah.
It's hard because we haven't seen this specific regime. Still Ed McGuire running the books, and from that part it stays the same. But we haven't seen this group give big extensions to anyone so far in 1 year. So we don't really know what the playbook is for them at this point. It seems to be asinine as we're sitting here having a whole segment conversation about what they don't have offensively in the offensive line group, that they would have any intention to not sign Rashawn Slater. At the same time, Joe Ortiz, when asked about it post-draft, was still very hesitant. I mean, had to be pried out of him that there was progress, quote unquote, and that seemed pretty hollow. So
yeah,
it doesn't seem close at the moment. It seems insane for me to think that there isn't a world in which the Chargers, extend him, because when you have great players at really important positions and a franchise quarterback, you protect him with those guys. I still think it will get done. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button, and I don't think it will be for quite a while. But I'd say if you're talking about the time frame, I agree with you. Probably on the eve of training camp, but getting closer to training camp. I don't think we're going to see a deal in the next couple weeks, and if we do, hallelujah.
Yeah.
That saga will be over. I'm tired of you and having to answer that question because it just seems so dumb that they haven't gotten it done already, because it doesn't feel like there's too much to iron out in that situation. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Thank you to everyone for getting us all of your buy or sells today. It is one of, if not our favorite shows of the week, especially getting your guys' involvement in it. So if you guys want to be part of the next one, make sure you're following us at Locked On LAC on Twitter, where we put a post out. We put a post out on our YouTube as well, on our Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also make sure you just never miss the show by following or subscribing for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from. And if you guys want to call into the voicemail line, you can do that like a Thier at 323-524-7924. Important, make it 30 seconds or around that or less, because that is all we're allowed to use as far as voicemail goes. So try to keep it around 30 seconds, and we'll do our best to get you on the show. But make sure you guys are back here tomorrow, because it is your team every day, talking about the most likely undrafted free agent, a first look at that to make this roster. And there's definitely one guy I'm already excited about already. So I'm going to be buying into these storylines and thinking that at least 4 of these guys is going to make the team. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Make sure you're back here tomorrow. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.